started here. So welcome to Something News Conversations with, in this case, the amazing Chaunte Lowe, and we are super excited to have her with us today. So this is not a podcast, not a webinar. This is us getting to talk to somebody who I consider an American hero. She's amazing. So, Chaunte Lowe, let's get this party started.
Oh gosh.
Come on, girls, let's get together. The clock is ticking. Can't hold the feeling. We're gonna raise the ceiling. Get this party started. Let's dance. Come on, girls.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to my good friend, Chaunte Lowe. Chaunte, in case you don't know, is a four-time Olympian. So 04 in Athens, 08 in Beijing, 12 in London, 16 in Rio, and 20, I don't know what I think they're still calling it 20 for
2020.
Tokyo. She's training for her 5th Olympics. She is an Olympic medalist. She is the American record holder in the high jump. She is a 12-time U.S. national champion. She is the mother of 3 amazing kids, Jasmine, Aurora, and MJ. And she is a cancer survivor. And she is one of my heroes. Absolutely love Chaunte. So thank you for joining us. Before we get started, we have a few surprises today. So first, I know Ann Kavitsky is on here somewhere. Ann, we're not going to sing to you, but I wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. For those of you who don't know Ann is the founder of the Look for the Good Project. They're the charity that we chose for our book, Standing O Encore, which Chaunte is in. And Ann is an absolutely amazing human being. And so I wanted to wish you a happy birthday, Ann. We love you.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
birthday, Ann. Happy birthday.
Birthday.
So if you would like to read Chaunte's chapter in Standing O Encore, Chaunte is autographing copies, and we will be sending those out. So all you need to do is send an email to Chaunte Lowe with your mailing address, and we will mail you a copy of Standing O Encore signed by the amazing Chaunte Lowe. We also have some pretty cool giveaways today, which I'm excited about. So we're gonna have, at the end of the call, we're gonna do some Chaunte trivia. And we've got 3 things that we're gonna give away. But first, what you need to do, either grab your phone or grab a pen, write down my cell phone number, put it in your phone. It's 203-998-1700. So when we get to that portion, you'll text me the answer. First person who gets the answer to me wins. So we have 3 different things that we're giving away. The first is a 30-minute coaching call with a 20-year Navy SEAL commander, John McCaskill. John, wave to everybody. So John is an amazing guy, and he has graciously donated 30 minutes of his time to jump on a call. You can ask him what it's like to be a Navy SEAL, or ask him about mindfulness. That's one of his specialties. We also have, I don't know, I can't see everybody. Laura Gaster Oding, I believe, is on the call. Laura is the New York Times bestseller, and she is giving us a signed copy of her New York Times bestseller, Limitless, which is a phenomenal book. And last but not least, the amazing Chaunte is giving somebody 30 minutes, private call, ask her anything, have her talk to your kids, have her inspire somebody, but you guys will absolutely love that. So we're really excited about that. So 3 different giveaways. And the last one I hope is a big surprise. It's not a surprise to anybody on the call, but hopefully this is a surprise for you, Chaunte. So because Chaunte has a compromised immune system because of the chemotherapy that she's been going through, and because of COVID-19, Chaunte really can't train the way that she's used to training, and she's training, I just talked to her yesterday, training 7 days a week with Tokyo. So she needs a treadmill, she needs a spin bike, she needs some weights, she needs a whole bunch of stuff so that we can watch her on TV in the gold medal in Tokyo. So you've got some amazing fans and friends, Chaunte. So in the last 10 days, we've raised $2,665. We are going to raise $5,000 for you so that we can outfit you, and then we can take credit when you win your gold medal in Tokyo. So we're very excited. So it's only gone out to this group here, so a really small group. About 10 days ago, we got together. They all banded together, and so far, we're up to almost $2,700.
Thank you, guys. Trying to get me started with tears.
Yeah, why not? So I wanted to have Chaunte on. I said this at the launch party to the book. Chaunte is one of those people that just raises you up. If you think you're having a bad day, you know, I would be communicating with Chaunte either through Instagram or phone call or whatever, going through chemotherapy, and I'm trying to lift her up. Meanwhile, I wind up getting off the call, and I'm like more inspired than ever because of this incredible person. So, you know, I think especially in today's, what we're going through today, it's so appropriate to have Chaunte on. Her story is all about resiliency and overcoming adversity. So Chaunte, I'm going to turn it over to you. This is going to be open for Q&A, but I want Chaunte to tell a little bit of her story growing up in California and how the heck anyone becomes a 4-time Olympian is just ridiculous. So welcome, Chaunte.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for the the claps and the handshakes. First, I just want to say thank you so much for guys banding together, and it really means a lot to me. It's definitely going to be challenging training for my 5th Olympics, but that's what all of us on this call do. We find ways to get it done, even when it seems like the odds are stacked up against us, and that there's really no way around I guess, any type of trouble, but we could do it. So I wanted to say thank you for that. Scott, thank you for that amazing introduction. I want you to say all that again for my family so they could treat me like that.
Bring them in, absolutely.
No, but seriously, this group is really special to me. And, you know, before this last year, I would say that, you know, my story I thought was really exciting. And then, you know, God threw me another curveball. He was like, no, here's the second act, and it's way better than the first. But I grew up in California. When I was 4 years old, I watched the Olympics for the first time, and I saw FloJo. And how many of you guys know who FloJo is?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Right crowd.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm watching FloJo. Her hair's flowing. Her muscles are rippling. Like she has these long nails. They're painted like red, white, and blue. She's wearing this red top with a bib on the front of it. And she's standing behind her blocks. And I'm looking at her eyes, and they're laser focused down the track. And then you see the starter hold up the gun in the air, and he says, runners to your mark. She gets behind her blocks. She puts her feet in the blocks, and then she dashes down the track. And I just see strength, and I see beauty, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, Mom, I want to be like this woman. And I asked my mom, I say, Mom, what does it take to be an Olympic athlete? And she's like, hard work and perseverance. And like, I kind of didn't like that, one, because I was 4 and, and then maybe secondly, because I didn't know what those words meant. So, so I go to my sister to get a second opinion. She's the second wisest person I know. She's 6 years old. I asked her, I'm like, hey, what does it take to become an Olympian? And she took the opportunity and she says, hey, why don't you reach down and eat some of this dirt? It'll make you faster. So I'm like, hey, what do I have to lose? I reach down, I eat the dirt, and I start running in the parking lot. And I'm like, yes, I feel it, I'm faster. That jolt didn't last long. I realized that my mom was right, and it was going to take hard work and perseverance. And I remember that summer just like feeling like everything in my life was absolutely perfect. But when I watched that woman on that television screen at that moment in time, it clicked for me. That was what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And so it burned so deep inside of me that even though a lot of things were going on around me, it was something that I never gave up on. And every step that I took in my life was to press towards that moment so that when my time came, I knew that I'd be ready. There were turbulent times between the time that I actually made my first Olympics and the time that I had saw the Olympics for my first time. And the first thing that happened was my mother, she met a man she loved dearly, but he had a problem with addiction, and he was very abusive when he drank. And the drinking would happen often. And so he would get drunk. He would beat my mom in the middle of the night. And I remember me and my sisters would just get up and we'd be screaming and yelling and trying to get him off of her. And we were poor at the same time, so we didn't have a phone to call the police. And I remember running down the street in the middle of the night, knocking on neighbors' doors, asking them if they would call the police for us so that, somebody could come and help my mother. And one by one, the neighbors would say no, they didn't want to get involved. It was none of their business. And at that point in time, I remember thinking, I never want to be like that. If there was ever anybody in need, I knew that it was my responsibility to do something. And that burned inside of me. But what I didn't know is that even though that's how my nights were spent, my days were completely different. Somehow I was able to shake off what happened the night before, put on my mask of happiness, and go to school the next day. I would do my very best in class. School was like my escape. It was my place of peace. It was a place where I knew that I would get 2 hot meals. It was a place where I knew that I could work hard at something and excel. But my most favorite thing of all, it was the place where I was going to get to go and race other children. And at PE, I would go and I started putting targets on the fast kids' back and picking them off one by one. And I knew that each child that I was beating was one step closer to becoming an Olympic champion. And so as the years went on, people from the outside would look at it and think that I had the most terrible life. But at one point when I was 9, I remember praying and saying, God, please take this stepdad away. Like, he's ruining our family. He's making our life hell. Like, take him away. And I remember within a week, we get knocks on the door. Bounty hunter comes in. Hey, where's your stepdad? My mom lied. She didn't say where he was, even though he was hiding in the closet. But at that moment, she said, look, you're going to have to go. The police are going to get you. And he left. And I never seen him again. Yeah, you can clap. But at that moment, I started realizing that when there's trouble in your life, you have to realize there's some type of hope that it's not going to be there forever. And you don't let that area of or that obstacle stop you from your dreams. You keep pressing forward. Times got hard when he left because half of the income left, and my mom found herself depressed. She loved him even though he had issues, and we found ourselves homeless. So in the 7th grade, I had to make a tough decision. It was like either stay there with my mom as she was battling through everything and the trauma that she had just went through, or to keep moving towards my dream and go live with relatives. And so from bouncing from motel to motel, sleeping in the back of cars, finally I was just like, okay, I have to get out of this situation. I went and applied for a work permit at the age of 12, worked all summer, took the money, bought a bus ticket, and drove to rode to Southern California to live with my grandmother. And it was the first time I had been in a stable household. And I realized that I wanted to do something different with my life. I understood that education was the thing that was going to take me out of this cycle of repetitive poverty, substance abuse, abusive relationships. And I knew that education was the way. So I went to the store, I bought a neon green board, and I started placing pictures. It was my first vision board. I didn't know what a vision board was, but I made this vision board. And I started sticking pictures of Olympic spikes on it and college and different things. And I asked my teacher, I said, how much does college cost? And she told me it was about $30,000 a year, or maybe $20,000 to $30,000 a year. And I just knew, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford that. So at that point, I was like, okay, it's on me. You know, I took responsibility and ownership of it. I was like, I'm going to have to get a scholarship. And just like from the call we heard from Charlie Ingle, I started running. I started running everywhere. I took it as my duty. It was my training that I was going to get to the Olympics. And before I got to the Olympics, I was going to get my education from a college that was going to pay for me to be there. And so from that point on, I ran every team that I could get on. I ran. I looked at the boys. I was like, look, there's no gender equality. I'm coming for you too. They were not exempt. And, you know, I just kept running and running. My sophomore year in college, I had my first opportunity to make my first Olympic team. And I learned a pattern of behavior that it just kept happening and happening and happening. And, you know, now I am here for Olympics later. And I don't want to go into details. So if you guys want to like ask questions, if you want to know something specific, or if you want me to keep going.
Yeah, I think her Olympic story, you know, one of the things that has always drawn me to Chaunte is, you know, you always hear the glass half full, glass half empty. She's not even half full. It's like her glass is just always full. She's so positive, and she's taken, you know, every situation in her life and she's turned it into a positive. There's a video that I'd love for you guys to watch. We'll actually send you guys a link to it. But it's when Chaunte is accepting her medal for the Olympics, which she got 8 years after the Olympic Games in 2008 in Beijing. So Chaunte, why don't you tell that story?
Yeah, so in 2007, my husband and I found out we were having our first child. And that, like any Olympic athlete will tell you, it takes the full 4 years to really train for and put yourself in a good position to get an Olympic medal. And, you know, at that point, we had exactly 12 months. And so, you know, we ended up having our daughter. We're training for the Olympics. At the same time, I'm in my senior year of college. So I'm having to finish, like, look, I can't push this out any more semesters. We're going to have to finish this. I took 21 hours. And we're in the midst of the financial crisis, which is something, you know, we're possibly going to be experiencing right now again. And I remember applying for 250 jobs because I had just graduated and we were about to foreclose on our house. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to just drop all that at the door. I have a nursing 1-year-old. I drop it at the door. We go to Beijing. I go and compete my butt off and I end up getting 6th place. And I can't be mad because it had just been 1 year. I jumped the highest that I had jumped in the competition. I graduated, I had a baby. I came back successfully and it just wasn't good enough. I got 6th place. Long story short, I go to Beijing, I go to London 2012. I get 4th or 5th, I don't know. If you don't get top 3, you kind of forget what place you get. And then I go to Rio and I am the final jumper of the Olympic competition. If I make the 3 women before me miss the bar. So if I make it, I'm the Olympic champion. If I miss it, I'm 4th place, nothing. And so I'm like, oh gosh, not again. This is my 4th Olympics. This is not happening to me again. So I run, I jump over the bar, I clear it. Like, yes, my toes knock it off right at the last minute. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening again. And so after you go to the Olympics, you get to go to the White House. So I'm sitting there at the White House with all of my other teammates, and they're wearing their medals. And I'll say this is probably the lowest point of all of my Olympic years, is where I'm looking around and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I felt like a failure. Because I'm always positive, but this one moment, I didn't feel so positive. And then I realized, I said, how dare you? Your goal when you were 4 was to be an Olympian. Just because everyone else around you's goal was to get the gold medal and this and that, and there's so much emphasis on it, I had to rewrite my story as a success story. Like, that was it. Like, it's up to me. And so I was like, you know what? No, I set out the goal to become an Olympian. I did it 4 times. I broke an American record, you know, and that one medal doesn't define me. I went home and I'm on Facebook, and one of the Olympic champion from Beijing writes me. She's like, congratulations, Olympic bronze medalist. I was like, okay, I'm trying to be positive. You guys are just poking fun at me now. That's cold-blooded. And then I get another message within a minute from the world champion. It says, congratulations, bronze medalist. I was like, what are you talking about? You guys are cruel. And what happened was the news cycle in Europe had hit before it did in the US, that 3 of the women that competed in front of me in Beijing had tested positive for steroid usage. And what they do is they hold the samples for 8 years to make sure that the methods of testing could catch up with the methods of cheating. And they tested them. 3 women tested positive. So they let me know that they were going to reallocate the medal, and that within weeks that I would be awarded with an Olympic bronze medal. I was like, yeah. And then after that, they had an amazing ceremony for me in Los Angeles. Carl Lewis was there, Michelle Kwan, Allison Felix, and they televised it on NBC. They took this medal, and they were like, well, how do you want your medal? I was like, I want you to hand it to my son, who will hand it to my daughter, who will hand it to my oldest daughter, who will put it in my husband's hands, who will place it around my neck. And for me, they were like, aren't you mad? They kept asking me if I was mad. I was like, how could I be mad? One of these kids was a nursing 1-year-old and would never remember this moment. And the other 2 didn't exist. And now, like, in the US, we win all the medals. So it's not that special when you get your medal with 50,000 other people. Like, this was my own ceremony. And I loved it. So that's kind of my glass.
Awesome.
Completely full story.
Love it. Love it. So, I mean, Chaunte has stories for days. I know that people love kind of what's a day in the life of an Olympian when you're training literally 7 days a week. What is that like? You know, what's it like to be on that big stage? I think, you know, very few of us can relate to what it's like to be on the world's biggest stage and have everybody watching you, and what that's like, and how do you stay, this is I think relevant to all of us, how do you stay focused, how do you stay composed? We've got a lot of military guys on the call today, and they certainly have an appreciation for that, but a regular dude like me, I'm always fascinated, like how in the world do you do that?
All right, I'll start with the day in the life of. I wake up, I learned from pregnancy. And basically I realized I'm going to be up all night anyway. And as the day goes on, anyone who has parents know you're just going to get more tired throughout the day. So from that, I started training at 4:30 in the morning. After that 4:30 feeding, I was like, this is the most rested I'm going to be all day. And I started training at 4:30. And what I realized, I was like, this is why successful people wake up this early. It's quiet. You have clarity of mind. There are no distractions. So you could actually focus on what it is that you set out to do. And there's some type of mental barrier that happens from the time that the alarm clock goes off to the time that you take your feet and place them on the floor, because you could make any decision between that time period and decide you're not going to do it. But the first hurdle of breaking that mental barrier and putting your feet on the floor is the catalyst that sets the tone that you're going to make the tough decisions, and you're not going to allow any excuses or anything in your mind to stop you from doing what it is that you've set out to do. And it carries on throughout the rest of your day. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I start with a jog. When I was younger, I didn't have to do that. I just jump right into it, but the joints get stiff. And I start out with a jog, usually about 30 minutes, no ultra marathons here. And then I have a treadmill now, but it sticks so badly. So I am so appreciative for the help. And then after that, I start lifting weights. So I lift every day. Not a lot of people do that. I squat very heavy. My max on quarter squats is just under 600 pounds. So I do that. I do a lot of power cleaning and free weights, not a lot of machines. And then after that, I get my kids ready for school. So I know at 7 o'clock, I have to stop no matter what. So 4:30 to 7, I'm lifting. I get my kids dressed and ready for school because I want them to see my face every day. I want to smile at them and make them happy and fill them up before they go to school. Then once they go to school, then I go for round 2. And that's when I usually do some hardcore sprinting, some type of interval running, something to get my heart hurting, and booty lock. Who knows what booty lock is? Nobody. Okay, there you go. Rebecca. That is when,
former heptathlete.
She knows it. That is when the lactic acid builds up in your hamstrings and gluteus maximus muscles, and it feels like your muscle's going to tear away from your body. But it's also a point of getting strong. It's where you get stronger. So yeah, so I go for workouts. I try to emulate that feeling. Then I come back in, usually for water or a nap or something like that. Try to get recharged before the kids get back home from school. And then we do homework. Homework is the hardest thing I have to do in the day. Can somebody participate for me? They've changed math. They've changed science. They just make stuff up that doesn't make sense anymore. And your kids telling you you're doing it wrong, even though you got a master's degree. You know how it is. And then after that, I go for round 3. And usually that's going to be some type of stadium workout, some type of resisted hard running. And then I cook dinner, and we do it all again. Go to sleep and do it again. So that's the daily schedule. And what was the next question?
I mean, I think let's really open it up to the group. I know that people have all kinds of different questions, and they'd love to know. So whoever has a question, just unmute yourself.
Scott, I've got a question, if it's okay. Chaunte, your story is fascinating. We all know a bunch of positive people in our life, but I don't know a tremendous amount about you, but just the background story and the upbringing and the challenges. I'm curious, former athlete, although very humbly, not even remotely at the level that that you've achieved. I've coached both of my kids' teams, and I had many good and bad coaches growing up. Was there a coach or a mentor or a parent figure, regardless of good or bad parents, just a mentor or a figure in your life that just had some crazy inspiration for you and made you believe you could run through walls? Because the great ones seem to, and I'm curious, if you had one.
Absolutely. So for me, it was actually, I had many, but like the one that really sticks out to me is a teammate. And we were doing stadium stairs one day. I was the worst person on my high school team, believe it or not. And they had already been working to try to make a state championship team. So we're running stadium stairs, and I would run almost to the top, and I would stretch my leg out and just tap the top instead of running all the way up. So I did it once. I ran down, and then I went up again, and I did it a second time. And she looked at me and she said, "You know what? Somebody else took that step today." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Somebody else took that step." She was like, "When you finish, when you finish your training, you want to know that not one other person in the world worked harder than you today. And then she said, run down 10 and run back up. And so she made me do an extra. And then that was my mindset from that moment on. Every time that I ran up the stairs, I would run down 10 and run back up, and I would count that as 1. And I started feeling like if I wanted to be at the top, I can't do an average amount of work and then expect to be the best. If I wanted to be the best, I had to, in my mind, conceivably not believe that not one person did more than me in the entire world. And that's how that's the biggest thing that shaped and changed me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike, if you get a copy of Standing O Encore, you'll read about another coach. I won't spoil it, but Chaunte writes about somebody who had a tremendous impact on her life.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's a great
Who's
answer.
next?
Ann Kavitsky has a question. Ann, do you want to say it or do you want me to read it for you?
Hi, Ann.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much. This is like the best birthday present ever to just hear you speak. So I work with a lot of kids and they're all at home and they're dealing with a lot of feelings, a lot of big feelings, and families are, the whole family is dealing with big feelings. So what my opportunity is to give advice on how to regulate emotions. So I'm working with social workers, but I would love to have your input on what would you advise on regulating disappointment? Seems like you've had a lot of that. Anger, how do you reframe and make it work? Also just fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for kids?
Yes. So as you guys know, I was training for my 5th Olympics through chemotherapy, and like just being able to go there, like allowing that to be a platform to be able to help other people was like the thing that was driving me. And so with COVID-19 happening, they moved the Olympics, which has never happened before. They're moving it to next year. And so I had an opportunity to just really think about all that disappointment and like everything that I had put into it that was ripped from me. But I had to purposefully make a decision that I am not going to allow this to be a negative and try to search and find a way to turning into a positive. So it's like, there's not a pro and cons list. It's a pros list. I'm making a pros list. Why is this a good thing? Well, number one, I would be ready. I know I could force myself to be ready, but now I have more time to be ready. Number two, I'm not going to have to go into it with the uncertainty and fear of potentially catching a deadly virus that could kill me or that I could spread to my family. Number three, the world is actually coming together in a peaceful way to fight something because they care and love everyone. And it's like, wow, like a couple months ago, I wouldn't have thought this was even possible. People aren't staying home because they're scared for themselves. They're staying home because collectively as a world, we want to be healthy. And that is a good thing. When I was young, I had a lot of anger and I wanted to channel that into my training. And I thought that that was the right thing to do, but I would always get hurt. And I would walk around with a lot of anger, hostility, and it wasn't a good thing. It was actually a growing virus, like a cancer, just like a cancer. It was growing inside of me and changing the way I was. So like when I competed, I wouldn't smile. I didn't interact with the crowd. I learned that joy was a much more powerful training tool than anger. And that's why that video that he showed, it's my favorite video because I'm dancing. That wasn't fake. I had so much joy. I had so much peace. And I like to share that with others. And so for kids, it's not to say that your feelings of anger are not validated, but anger can only be combated with joy. And so you have to search for joy like it's gold and don't stop until you find it.
Wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the
question. We have a lot, Kathy. I keep seeing things pop into the chat.
Yes.
Chaunte, this is Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Hey, how are you? Thank you. Amazing story. Scott, thank you for facilitating. Appreciate it. This is great. Chaunte, how old were you when you became aware of this positive mindset? And was there anything specifically that triggered it? Because like a lot of people in the face of adversity, there's a big opportunity to kind of fall into this downward spiral of victimhood.
Yep.
And then there are those that persevere in the face of adversity, which clearly you have. So can you talk about when you became consciously aware of that mindset change?
It was when I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that between the age of like maybe 6 and 9, I was always thinking about what I didn't have. So like on Father's Day, you know, seeing all the other kids having a card to give to their fathers, I would just, oh, I don't have a father. Or, you know, when you think about like, man, I could do this if this person wasn't there. So like, I felt like between like 6 and 9, that so much of what I wanted to do was stopped by this like abusive stepfather. But then when I was 9 is when he left. And then mentally I realized that I still kind of had that like, oh, if this was just right, then I could do this. I was like, wait, but the biggest problem in my life for the last 3 years, what I was praying and wishing would go away was a stepfather. Now he's gone, but I'm still trapped in my mind. Then I realized there's always going to be something that is going to stop you from trying to live the type of life that you want or go after your goals. But now I realize that, hey, I could choose positivity despite whatever the situation is. And I think that it had a lot to do with the fact that at that time, my grandmother started taking me to church with her. And when she started taking me to church with her, I started listening to those stories. And it really made sense to me that I had a choice to make about the type of life that I was going to live. And I chose that it was going to be a life of positivity.
Thank you. That's awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Sean, I don't know if, are we jumping in? Or are we going according to the chat or?
Yeah, just jump right in.
Okay. Yeah, Chaunte, my name's Dewan. First of all, thank you so much for sharing it. Your story is awesome and encouraging and inspiring. And there's a part of it that I understand, like, so you know, at 4, realizing, hey, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, and then going through all that it takes to actually get to a point where you're an Olympian. There's a lot of difficulty there. There's a lot of things that you went through in order to get there. Once you're there, what I see a lot of times out of super high performers, and I can say that you are that, obviously being top 3 in the world, which is nuts to me still thinking about it. But what I see sometimes is that there's a sense of frustration when they are engaging with or trying to encourage other people to grasp the same belief. Like, you clearly know that when you put your mind to something and work extremely hard to get it, you can get it. There are other people that you might be mentoring, people that might be in your life that are seeking encouragement from you who haven't grasped that as a belief of their own. Like, how do you prevent being frustrated that what you grasped and took a hold of and actually brought all of your dreams to fruition, they're not grasping? Like, what, you know, how do you maintain humility, maintain a sense of understanding of what it's like to be in the beginnings of that journey, and be encouraging at the same time? Like, I'd be interested to hear that.
That is a great question, because it is one of my greatest frustrations. I remember I asked a local track club. I was just trying to do good. And I asked them, I was like, can I come and speak to your student athletes? They're like, no, we're good. And I was like, what? And you realize at a certain point, you can't want it more for them than they want for themselves. Yeah. Sometimes people are just not at the point where they want it. You could lay it out for them. You could write it down. You could have the best steps, but some people just don't want it. And it has to be, even with your own kids, it has to be something that they want. Like for me, it wasn't that my parents wanted me to become a high-performing elite athlete. It was something that I wanted. Yeah. And so that's why it's really important to make decisions based on the fuel of your own passions. What are you passionate about? Because if you don't have that passion that drives you, you're not going to do whatever it takes. You're not going to listen to a sense of, I guess, expertise, because you feel like it's not that important. But if you have a passion for it and you want to see it more than the air that you breathe, the more than the food that you eat, you're going to listen to wisdom about what it takes to get there. And for me, yes, I still get frustrated. When you get the answer to that question, you let me know, because I want people to succeed, and some people just don't want it for themselves as much as I want it for them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the answer.
Hey, thank you.
Hi, I have a question. This is Mike. Hi, Chaunte.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, I appreciate you showing up. And Scott, thanks for the invite. This has been very enlightening. 2 questions related to the mental aspect, Chaunte. What techniques did you use to stay focused while competing at world level? I'm talking specifically in the stadium, avoiding distractions, focused on the bar. And then a follow-up to that, do you use meditation or any other techniques to recover mentally? I know you recover physically from your daily training. What do you use to recover mentally, stay mentally in it?
Absolutely. So the first one about the stadium, it actually starts on the track. I used to drive my teachers crazy. In class, I would count my steps. So my steps are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I would just do that with my pencil in class all the time, like. And they would get so frustrated with me. But that was me mentally playing the competition over and over and over in my head. To me, it didn't matter if I was in a grass field, if I was on a high school track, if I was in a dirt road. It was the same jump over and over and over again. So repetition, I would do it over and over again, so that by the time I got into the stadium, I had my 2 pieces of tape on the ground. I knew exactly where my feet down to the 1/4 centimeter where I was going to land. And then I had one spot on the bar that I would look at all the time. I'm trying to see if I have my bar in here. And I had like a little makeshift bar, a shorter version of my high jump bar, put at the American record height in my room. So it was the first thing that I saw every day. So when I was standing on that mark in a loud stadium, all I saw were 2 pieces of tape and one spot on a bar that I had looked at hundreds of thousands of times leading up to that moment. So I didn't hear the crowd. I didn't see the people. For me, it was just something that I had done over and over and over again. And I was just doing it in a different place. So that's the first question. Your second question, when it comes to meditation, like I said, for me, my grandmother took me to church. And so she started me early reading the Bible. And when I read the Bible, there's like specifically in Proverbs, there were a lot of positive things that I could apply to my life. There was a lot of wisdom. And so I do meditate on scripture daily and nightly. And I find that it applies to several areas of my life to keep me going down the path that I really want to go down. So it helps tremendously. And I always visualize my jump. So even if I was hurt, couldn't compete, I will visualize what it looks like to be in that stadium full of people, jumping over the bar, landing on the mat, standing up and going like this and pointing at people,
Thank you so much. Great answers. I really love the putting the bar up and visualizing that. That's a great one. I'm going to pass that on to people.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Stacy.
Hi, Chaunte. This is Stacy Feiner. I hail from Cleveland. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be listening to your story and just seeing you. And you are.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So my question is, it seems as though you have had a focus for yourself, and it's been this particular sport. Will you be able to live without that kind of focused goal when this sport is not the one you're choosing or able to do anymore? How will you use all of that focus and need to focus? It seems like it's just a part of who you are.
Yes, that is a great question. So after 2016, I did feel extremely lost. And it's because at that point I was ready to retire. So the great thing is I had a practice run um, before this one, and I knew that I felt empty. I needed something else that I needed to do. So in this time period, I have a lot of endeavors and a lot of different projects that I'm working on now that will turn into careers once this Olympic run is over. So I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements, which I have a passion for speaking for organizations, young people, and just groups like this, and imparting the knowledge that I've gotten over 20 years of doing something at a high level that are transferable to help improve people's daily lives. So I'm doing a lot of that. On top of that, I'm a financial services professional like Scott's wife. So I'm working and partnering with Northwestern Mutual. I'm shadowing a lot of advanced advisors. So I'll be getting my CFP in July, hopefully, if the testing centers are open back up. And then I'm also writing a book. So that, you guys, being part of Standing O has inspired me tremendously. And I'm in talks right now with Scholastic to write a book. So that should be coming out when the Olympics is over. So yes, a lot of athletes suffer from that. And that's why I've started already that transition process, because it could make you feel very empty when you do something every single day from 4:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night for 20 years, and then it's gone. So I'm preparing for that in those ways. Thank you for that question. That was good.
I love that you found your way to Scholastic. I mean, you're an educator. You're wonderful. Thank you, Chaunte.
Thank you. Oh, I can see you now. Thank you, Stacy.
Is it a children's book? This is Ann Kavitsky.
Yes, it's going to be a middle grades book. So
awesome. Please let me know, because
I
work
will.
with a lot of schools.
Really? Okay, good. So I'll probably send it to you, the first paragraph.
I love it. Yeah, we bring gratitude to schools all over the country, so it's happy to align in any way to help you.
Yes, I would love to do that and help you too.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hey. Oh my goodness, this is so amazing. So I guess my question for you is, how do you, I guess, help support your kids and with the types of dreams that they have, and even at a young age? So like right now, my daughter, she's just turned 5, and she's really into gymnastics. She's actually very good at it so far. She's moved up in all of her classes very quickly, and they see a lot of potential in her. So what's the best way for me, I'm a former athlete as well, to kind of just nurture that without being too overbearing and like, okay, you're so good, I could see you going like to places down the line, Yep. So what would your, I guess, advice for me be there? What would your advice be there for me with my 5-year-old?
I would say take her lead. So like go at the pace that she wants to go. If it gets to the point where you're pushing her and she's 5, it's unhealthy. But if she's the one pulling you like, come on, mom, then just run at her pace and run with her. When I was her age, I was running all over the place. I wanted to do gymnastics, tap, ballet, basketball, football, skating. And it's like, I got better because my mom let me do all of it. And I was just, I would play in the street. I would love the last day of school because she would let us play, when it was safer, play from 3 o'clock all the way to midnight. Like she would just let, as long as we checked in every hour, we could stay outside. But for us, obviously that's not as practical, but just let her play and encourage her and give her opportunities to discover and explore her passion for it. And then if she wants more, give her more.
Okay. Thank you. That's awesome. That's what I'm trying to do. So
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Who's next? Let's see what we got.
Yeah, hey, Scott, this is Chaunte.
Hi, Sean.
It's an amazing feat to get to that elite level once, to peak once. I'm interested, how do you maintain that that level of excellence for so many years. I mean, that is incredible to stay at the top of your game for that long.
So this is the secret sauce. I figure that if you put in the same inputs, then I should expect the same output. And I got really lucky early on that I found the recipe to do it right. Like I found the recipe, the secret, I don't know, I'm out of analogies, but I found it early and I just put it on rinse, wash, and repeat. So the first thing that I did is I wrote it down. I made the plan. I executed a plan when it got tough. That was the part that I feel like all of us are in right now. It's that element of sacrifice. So when the plan gets tough, you have everything in place. We're right now understanding like, okay, if we stay away from each other, coronavirus will not hurt us. Not really, but it won't spread as much. And we're in that point right now where it's like, it's hard. And that's the same point you get in your training where people usually abandon the plan. But for me, when I got through that part of sacrifice, I kept pushing forward because I knew that it worked. And so I've done the same exact thing. I have the same exact weight sheet. I have the same exact workouts, and I've just been doing them over and over and over again. So I know I have a recipe that works.
So
That's amazing. Thank you.
I don't want to take up too much of Chaunte's time. I know she's got 3 kids to take care of, a training program.
They're okay.
I don't know where Mario is, but somewhere in the mix. So do we have one more question? Then we're going to do 3 trivia questions. So make sure you have my phone number in your phone because you're going to text me the answer, and I'll let you know the winners. 203-998-1700. So one more question for Chaunte.
Hey, this is Rebecca. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, Chaunte. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with us. It's really, really incredible and been really inspiring and insightful. I was just wondering how your definition of success has changed over time, and just as your life has changed and evolved, and kind of how you've made those adjustments along the way with self-reflection and introspection.
Yes, that's a good question. So up until, I want to say probably June of last year, my idea of success was winning medals, having a decent bank account, being a good person, that you could feel proud of looking into the mirror. And then I got that breast cancer diagnosis. And that completely shifted my focus of what I expected success to be. Because all I could think about is all of the things I didn't do. And none of them had to do with medals, money, or, liking how I looked in the mirror. It was more about, oh my gosh, did I prepare my children for life? Man, do I feel like I've spent enough time giving my husband those words of affirmation to make him know that I love him? Have I told my grandmother everything that she's done in her life that has impacted me? Have I expressed that gratitude to the people that I love? And I realized that up to that point, I hadn't done it as much as I wanted to. And so that complete shift of like, man, life is great, to, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, to wait, I'm going to live. And there's so many things that I need to do. I shifted my focus. And now it's like, I spend that time really looking at my kids and saying, okay, what does this kid need? I know that Jasmine needs to be hugged 15 minutes a day. I know that I have to play video games with MJ at least 15 minutes a day. I know I have to look Aurora directly in her eyes and tell her a story about my childhood, because that's what lights her up. And I know for my husband, I have to shut my mouth and listen to him talk attentively, which is hard every single day. But it's completely changed the way that I do life. And now a successful day to me, like I could have nothing in the bank account, whatever. But like, if I have accomplished those things and called my grandma and told her to stay her butt in the house and stop going to the grocery store and without a mask on, then I know that that is a successful day.
Thank you so much, Chaunte.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
This is the down low with CeeLo. So this is the Chaunte Lowe trivia time. Are you ready? So you've got to text me the answer. So I'm going to ask 3 questions, and I'll be able to figure it out, I think. So the first question is, Chaunte's mentioned her husband, Mario, a bunch, and he's an amazing guy and a great dad. So Mario is also a tremendous athlete. And what is Mario's specialty? What event was Mario's specialty? You can Google it, you can do whatever. See who's fastest on Google. Oh, my phone is blowing up. All right, so I'm sure we have a winner there. Second question. Chaunte's favorite food is fill in the blank. And then we all send her gift cards for whatever.
We have to say was. I'm a vegan now. So that's a clue.
True.
That is a clue.
Yep. That's a good clue. And the last question is, what college did Chaunte go to? She didn't mention, we were talking about this yesterday. So am I right that while you were pregnant and training and doing all this crazy stuff, she also wound up with a 4.0 GPA? Like, seriously?
It was
Crazy.
for 1 semester, but it was for 21 hours.
Which is nuts. So what school did Chaunte go to? Let's see if I got an answer for that one. All right, so I will let you guys know who the winners are. One last quick story. Chaunte was telling me this the other day. So this is what a phenomenal athlete she is. So she broke the American record, which to think that you've done anything that no American has ever done is a crazy concept in my mind. So she breaks the American record, and then a half hour later, Chaunte, tell everybody what you did.
So I went into the long jump. I entered the long jump as a late entry, and I jumped the 10th furthest long jump of all time. And those women were mad at me. They said, get out of here. Get out of our event. Go back jumping over bars.
So to say she's a phenomenal athlete is an understatement. I think you've seen a little bit of why I had asked Chaunte to join us today. She's just an absolutely amazing person. We're all blessed now to call her friend. We are a little over 50% of our goal. I know now that this is no longer a secret because it was just in this tight group of people. We're going to get the word out, and we're going to get to $5,000. I know we can do it. So spread the word. You guys have all got the link. You can go nuts now. You can post it everywhere. But let's help Chaunte in her quest for a 5th Olympics. And Chaunte, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. We absolutely love you. You're an amazing person.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Chaunte.
Thank you,
Thank
Chaunte.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a wonderful
Good luck.
day.
And guys, if you'd
Thank
like,
you.
Thank
if you'd like an autographed copy of Standing O Encore and her chapter, autographed by Chaunte, not me, just send an email to Kathy Leckie. It's Kathy at trysomethingNewNow.com. And we will, with your mailing address, and we'll get you an autographed copy from Chaunte. But thank you guys. I hope everybody's safe. I know these are difficult times, and I hope that these forums, where we're bringing in some really amazing, inspirational people, are kind of hitting the mark. We wanted to do something different. When you name your company something new, you can't just do another podcast, you can't just do another webinar. You got to kind of do something a little bit different. So this invite-only kind of intimate environment, I think works for me. But thank you guys. I appreciate you guys very much. And round of applause for Chaunte Lowe. Thank you, Chaunte.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you, Chaunte.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
You,
Thanks, everybody.
So much,
Thank you,
Chaunte.
Tabby. Bye, Stacy. Bye, Jason. Bye,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Bye. And
Thank you.
bye.